Rocky Mountain construction is finally coming to Pennsylvania. In what has been one of the worst kept secrets in recent memory, the Ibox conversion of HersheyPark's Wildcat has been announced as Wildcat's Revenge. A new RMC coaster is usually cause for celebration, even in this case where I was one of the few who actually liked Wildcat in its original configuration, but is there anything more under the surface? Let's take a look here at all the press materials the park has released. It's important to note that this will actually be the third coaster at Hershey Park to use the Wildcat name. The original Wildcat opened all the way back in 1923 and has the distinction of being the first roller coaster built at Hershey Park. Briefly known as Joyride at the time of its opening, it was designed by Herbert Paul Schmeck of the Philadelphia Toboggan Company. Wildcat featured a drop over Spring Creek before turning around and diving toward the creek once again. The coaster had a decent run at the park, lasting 22 years before its closure. After this, the Wildcat name would be absent from Hershey for more than 50 years. That all changed in 1996, when the Wildcat that we are now familiar with opened. This Wildcat was the first coaster designed by the then new Great Coasters International, or GCI, who have since gone on to design some of the most fun and re-rideable wooden coasters on the planet. Wildcat was no exception, although anyone who rode it in its last few years would say otherwise. The coaster developed a reputation for being uncomfortably rough, and as such, ridership declined steadily over the years. It wasn't always that way though, and I have vivid memories of marathoning Wildcat at least 10 times in a row on a summer night in 2005, the first time I ever visited Hershey Park. With its twisting layout focusing mostly on laterals and drops, Wildcat received some criticism over the years towards its layout being uninteresting. I respectfully disagreed there, but I was in the minority as most people who rode it seemed to not go back for a second ride. This second iteration of Wildcat would have a slightly longer operational life than its predecessor, 26 years in this case, but when it was announced to be closing in July 2022, all eyes were immediately on Rocky Mountain construction, and that brings us to Wildcat's Revenge. To start, I have to applaud Hershey Park for knowing the limits of this project. They clearly aren't trying to break any records here, save for the underflip element, but we'll get to that soon. Instead, the focus seems to be on delivering a solid, fun ride experience that will please both coaster enthusiasts as well as the casual crowd. Now let's take a look at the layout. At the time I'm making this video, an official POV animation has not been released, but we have enough images and B-roll footage from the park to get a good idea of what Wildcat's Revenge is all about. After leaving the station and going through a few small airtime moments, the train begins its ascent. The lift hill reaches a height of 140 feet, an increase over Wildcat's original height of 106 feet, before heading into the first drop. This drop looks to immediately throw riders into the first, and likely best inversion found on the coaster, the step-up underflip. This element serves to both invert riders and also turn the train back around toward the station. The step-up underflip is still a rather uncommon element, only being found on 4 other coasters, but this will be the tallest of them all. How tall? We don't exactly know yet, but this looks to be the most intense part of the layout if you ask me. Following the underflip, we have what look to be some really intense airtime elements that will likely throw guests out of their seats. It's too early to tell if this will reach the ridiculous level of airtime as Steel Vengeance, arguably RMC's most intense coaster, but if the airtime is even close, I think we'll all be pretty happy. This section is followed by an RMC staple, the Zero-G stall. I've gotten pretty closely acquainted with this kind of element recently thanks to its presence on Steel Curtain, so this is one element I absolutely approve of. The hang time you get, even just for that second while you're upside down, is just excellent. It helps that the stall here seems to be prolonged when compared to Steel Curtains, which means Wildcat's Revenge will have even more hang time. After the stall, the coaster heads through another series of sharp turns and airtime hills, before heading into the first of 2 0G rolls. Only one turn separates them, so the intensity seems to continuously ramp up until the very end. After its final inversion, only a few small airtime hills remain before Wildcat's Revenge hits the brakes. After spending some time looking at the material the park has released regarding this coaster, I'm pretty happy with the end result. I know some people are disappointed the coaster isn't taller or faster, but like I said earlier, I appreciate Hershey Park for working within the limits of the original coaster design. I'm less interested in a taller coaster and more interested in seeing what it does with the speed it has over the course of the layout. I would have liked to see a different type of inversion instead of 2 back-to-back 0G rolls, but I suppose there wasn't a lot of space to work with in this section. With a top speed of 62 miles per hour, I was a bit underwhelmed at first, but with the abundance of airtime elements, I'm withholding judgment until I ride it. All that airtime will likely make up for the lower top speed. A few final things to go over here. I love the design of the train, with the Wildcat bursting through the wooden barrier. RMC have a pretty good reputation when it comes to train designs, and this looks to be no exception. And speaking of trains, the park has confirmed that Wildcat's Revenge will run 3 trains, and the station will have separate load and unload areas to increase capacity. I'm a fan of the theme with the titular Wildcat having broken loose and running wild, and the whole thing gives me similar vibes to the Beast at Kings Island. How long until we get a Beast vs Wildcat crossover project? The red rails definitely stand out, and since red is my favorite color, I'm absolutely fine with it. Though the theme is cool, I have to address a point of contention: the name. Wildcat's Revenge sounds cool, and I'm so glad it didn't end up being called Twisted Twizzlers like so many were speculating, but I guess I was expecting something more original. I mean, it's better than just putting the word Twisted or Iron before the name like so many other RMC conversions have done, but giving it the Revenge treatment is not new by any means. If anyone's gonna make the comparison, I guess it'll be me. Phantom's Revenge is only a few hours away, another coaster that was heavily modified and reopened with Revenge in the name. Granted, these are 2 completely different types of coasters, and if you want to go even further, might as well throw Steel Vengeance in there too. Oh, and Hydra the Revenge at Dorney. Check it out, it's the whole line of Coaster Vengeance, and you could do it all in one road trip if you want. Anyway, that's enough vengeance for now. Overall, Wildcat's Revenge might not be the best coaster RMC have designed and built, but it will definitely be an excellent ride and a fantastic addition to HersheyPark's lineup. Will it be the best in the park? That's hard to say now since it's up against some stiff competition, but I'm still very much looking forward to riding this when it opens next summer. Now then, what do all of you watching think of Wildcat's Revenge? Are you excited to ride, or did the layout fall short of your expectations? Please let me know down in the comments, and as usual, be sure to keep it here on Rampaging Rex Productions for more coaster content coming your way soon.